Absolutely not. One serving per person. Rules are rules. You think food grows on trees? The woman behind the counter, her name tag reading Brenda, volunteer lead, glared at the old man. If you believe everyone deserves dignity, no matter their situation, type dignity below. Thomas stood quietly. His clothes were worn, his face etched with lines that spoke of hard times, but his eyes held a calm that did not waver. He was thin, too thin, and the small portion of stew and single bread roll he had received an hour ago had barely touched the sides of his gnawing hunger. He had served his country for 20 years. He had faced dangers most people only saw in movies. Now he faced the cold stare of a food bank volunteer over a request for a little more food. "Ma'am," Thomas began, his voice soft, "I haven't eaten properly in 2 days. Just a little more, if it's possible. I don't want to take from others, but—" Brenda scoffed, crossing her arms. "Oh, I've heard all the stories. Everyone's got a sob story. If I give you extra, then everyone will want extra. This isn't a restaurant, you know." A few other people in the sparse, chilly hall looked over. Some looked away quickly, embarrassed. Others watched with a flicker of sympathy, but no one spoke up. Brenda had a reputation for being strict. Thomas felt a familiar ache, not just of hunger, but of being dismissed, of being unseen. He had never been one to make a fuss. In the army, you learned to endure, to follow orders, to put the mission first. Complaining got you nowhere. He nodded slowly. "I understand, ma'am. Thank you for what you do." He clutched the empty paper plate. Brenda, perhaps sensing his resignation, seemed to soften for a microsecond, then hardened again. "Just be grateful for what you got. Some people get nothing." She turned away, busy with a pile of forms, dismissing him completely. Thomas walked slowly towards the exit. The chill of the November air outside seemed to seep into his bones. He had hoped for a little more, just enough to see him through the night and maybe the next morning. His small disability check didn't stretch far, especially with winter coming. He had lost his small apartment a few months ago after a rent increase he just couldn't meet. Since then, it had been shelters when he could get a bed, and the streets when he couldn't. He paused by the door, his hand resting on the cold metal handle. Should he just leave? Accept this small defeat? It was what he usually did. But today, something felt different. A memory surfaced, a promise made long ago. Years back, during his last tour, his unit had been involved in rescuing a group of civilians trapped during a sudden conflict. One of them had been a young, terrified businessman, an American named Harrison who was there on a trade mission. Thomas, then a sergeant, had personally carried the man's injured son to safety through heavy fire. Mr. Harrison had been overwhelmed with gratitude. "Sergeant," Mr. Harrison had said, his voice thick with emotion, pressing a card into Thomas's hand, "I can never repay you. But if you or any of your men ever truly need anything at all, you call this number, day or night." Thomas had kept the card. It was worn, the ink faded, tucked deep in his old wallet. He had never used it. It felt wrong to ask for help, a sign of weakness. But was this not a time of true need? His stomach rumbled painfully. He looked back at Brenda, who was now sharply telling another person to form a proper line. The unfairness of it all, the casual cruelty, pricked at him. What would you do in Thomas's place? Would you make the call? He stepped outside into the biting wind, pulling his thin jacket tighter. He found a relatively sheltered alcove by the side of the building, away from prying eyes. With trembling fingers, he pulled out his old, battered wallet and found the card. The number was still legible. He took a deep breath, pulled out his cheap, pay-as-you-go phone, and dialed. The phone rang twice. A crisp, professional voice answered. "Harrison Enterprises. How may I direct your call?" "Hello," Thomas said, his voice a little shaky. I would like to speak to Mr. Arthur Harrison. My name is Thomas. He gave me this number a long time ago." There was a pause. "One moment, please." Thomas waited. He expected to be told Mr. Harrison was busy or to be put through a dozen assistants. He almost hung up. This was a mistake. Then a different voice came on the line. Stronger, warmer, but with an unmistakable edge of authority. "This is Arthur Harrison. Thomas? Thomas. Sergeant Thomas Miller?" Relief washed over Thomas. "Yes, Mr. Harrison, it's me." "Sergeant, my goodness, it's been years. How are you? Are you all right? What can I do for you?" The warmth in Harrison's voice was genuine. Thomas hesitated. It was hard to ask. Mr. Harrison, I'm in a bit of a difficult situation. I'm at a food bank, the City Harvest Food Bank on Elm Street. I, I just needed a little extra food, but he trailed off, not wanting to sound like he was complaining. They what, Thomas? Harrison's voice sharpened. What happened? They said no, sir. Rules, they said. I understand, but I'm very hungry. Thomas kept his voice even, just stating the facts. There was a silence on the other end, but it wasn't a dismissive silence. It was the silence of someone processing, someone thinking. When Harrison spoke again, his voice was tight with controlled anger. You are at the Elm Street Food Bank, and they refused you extra food? Yes, sir. Stay right where you are, Thomas. Don't move. I'll be there in 10 minutes. No, less. 6 minutes. Don't go anywhere. The line clicked dead. 6 minutes. Thomas leaned against the brick wall, the phone still in his hand. Could it be that simple, after all these years? He felt a sliver of hope, something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. He watched the cars go by, the minutes ticking slowly. Each minute felt like an hour. Exactly 6 minutes later, a sleek black limousine, the kind Thomas had only seen in movies, turned sharply onto Elm Street and pulled up directly in front of the food bank. It was followed by 2 large, black SUVs. Doors opened. Mr. Arthur Harrison, older now but still with that same determined look Thomas remembered, emerged from the limousine. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, a stark contrast to the drab surroundings. Several people in smart business attire emerged from the SUVs, looking serious and efficient. Mr. Harrison scanned the area, his eyes quickly finding Thomas huddled in the alcove. A look of profound sadness, quickly replaced by anger, crossed Harrison's face. He strode directly towards Thomas, ignoring the curious stares from the few people lingering outside the food bank. Thomas, he said, his voice booming slightly, reaching out and clasping Thomas's shoulder firmly. It's good to see you, my friend, though not like this at all. Inside the food bank, Brenda was sorting cans when she heard the commotion. She looked up, annoyed. What's all that noise? She muttered, walking towards the entrance. She saw the limousine, her eyes widened. Then she saw Mr. Harrison, a man whose picture was on a large plaque in their small office. Generous donor and patron, Mr. Arthur Harrison. Her jaw dropped. Mr. Harrison was talking animatedly with the shabby old man she had just dismissed. He had his arm around the man's shoulder. Mr. Harrison then looked towards the entrance of the food bank, his gaze like ice. He guided Thomas gently forward. Thomas, was it the lady at the counter inside? Thomas just nodded, looking uncomfortable with the sudden attention. Harrison strode into the food bank, Thomas by his side. His assistants followed. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The few remaining recipients and volunteers froze. Brenda stood there, mouth agape, as Mr. Harrison approached her. His face was like a thundercloud. You, Harrison said, his voice low and dangerous. Are you the volunteer lead here? Brenda swallowed hard, her usual bossiness gone. Yes, sir. Mr. Harrison, sir. It's an honor. It is no honor to be in the presence of someone who would deny a hungry man, a hero, a little extra food. Harrison cut her off. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that made everyone flinch. This man, Thomas Miller, saved my life and the life of my son. He served this country with honor for 2 decades. And you turn him away hungry because of rules? The food bank director, Mr. Henderson, a nervous, balding man, came scurrying from his office. Mr. Harrison, what a surprise. Is there a problem? He hadn't yet grasped the situation. A problem, Henderson? Harrison's voice was dangerously soft. Yes, there's a problem. A big one. This volunteer? He gestured towards a now pale Brenda. Just denied basic human decency to a decorated veteran, a man I owe my life to. Is this how City Harvest operates now? Mr. Henderson looked from Harrison to Thomas, then to Brenda, comprehension dawning on his face. He turned white. Brenda, what is this? Brenda stammered. I was just following protocol, sir. 1 serving. We have to be fair to everyone. Fair? Harrison thundered, his voice finally rising. Is it fair to let a man who risked his life for others go hungry? Is it fair to treat anyone with such disrespect? Your protocol needs a serious review, Henderson. Effective immediately, this woman is no longer to be associated with any organization I support. Brenda looked like she was about to faint. But I'm a volunteer. And your service is no longer required, Harrison said coldly. My assistant will take your details. Perhaps some retraining in compassion is in order. If you think Brenda got what she deserved, type justice in the comments. Mr. Henderson was wringing his hands. Mr. Harrison, I am so sorry. Thomas, Mr. Miller, please forgive us. This is an outrage. Brenda, please hand over your badge. You are suspended indefinitely. Brenda, defeated, slowly unclipped her badge. Harrison then turned to his assistants. All right, get on the phone. I want every supplier we work with. I want this warehouse, and any overflow storage they have, filled by nightfall. Meat, bread, fruit, vegetables, canned goods, everything. No one who comes to this food bank seeking help is to be turned away or given meager portions ever again, especially not our veterans. This food bank will become a model of generosity, not stinginess. That's an order. His assistants immediately got on their phones. Within minutes, it was clear that a massive operation was underway. Mr. Henderson rushed to get Thomas a chair, offering him water and assuring him he could have anything he wanted. Other volunteers, shocked but understanding, started to prepare several large bags of groceries for Thomas. Mr. Harrison sat with Thomas. Now, my friend, he said gently, we need to talk about getting you out of this situation. I have a comfortable guest house and a job for you at my company, if you're willing. Head of security for one of my smaller facilities. Good pay, good benefits. You'd be perfect. Tears welled in Thomas's eyes, the first he had shed in years. Mr. Harrison, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Thomas, Harrison said with a smile. It's the least I can do. Thomas nodded, a slow, grateful nod. By late afternoon, trucks began arriving at the food bank. Big trucks filled with pallets of food. The warehouse, which had been looking a little bare, began to fill. Volunteers, energized by the turn of events and Mr. Harrison's decisive action, worked with a new purpose. The story of what happened spread like wildfire. The food bank quickly instituted new policies, emphasizing respect, dignity, and special attention to veterans in need. Brenda was, as promised, let go and mandated to attend sensitivity training if she ever wished to volunteer anywhere reputable again. Thomas, after a good meal and a warm shower at Mr. Harrison's guest house, started his new job the following week. He was quiet, efficient, and deeply respected by everyone who learned his story. He never forgot the coldness of that day at the food bank, but now it was overshadowed by the warmth of a promise kept and a life turned around. This story reminds us to never judge a book by its cover. Heroes walk among us, often unseen, often in need. A little kindness, a moment of respect can change everything. And sometimes, a single phone call can unleash a wave of justice and generosity. What did you think of Mr. Harrison's actions? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that our veterans deserve our utmost respect and support, please subscribe for more stories that uplift and inspire. Remember, dignity is not a privilege, it's a right.